Morning, Year 10. I'm just doing a quick video. Hopefully, it won't be longer than about 10 minutes. It's just a help, I hope, for how to answer the 9-mark questions that I've been putting up for you guys to do recently in the lessons. Now, the lesson that I've put for Monday, the 18th, is a 9-mark, and it's all about liberal government reforms and how that develops welfare and patient care. It sounds potentially a little bit wordy. Basically, it's asking, well, what I'm asking you to answer is how did the Liberal government, so the new changes of the 1900s, impact people and their lives and whether they were being looked after? That's the question. You'll see things like patient care and welfare state. Those things basically just mean welfare is society being looked after by the government, and patient care is people being looked after properly. We're looking at patient care in this module. Patient care can be in hospitals, it can be in hospices. If we've seen it, it used to be in monasteries and convents with the nuns and the monks. But essentially, what I'm asking you is how are people being looked after? And it's meant to be about medical care, but obviously we know that your health and your medical needs are more than just getting a virus. You are maybe not more likely, but you can get sick because of where you live, because of what you're exposed to, because of what job you do. So we know all that. You need to use those things, the things we've already learned, to help you to inform an answer that you're answering today based on what you've learned today as well. So it's a mix of everything. This is why the GCSE is so tricky, because you can't just look at one exam question and think, oh yeah, I can answer that, without referencing anything other than that one lesson I did. It's more complicated than that. So I thought I'd quickly go through it. Disclaimer, I've got some kittens over quarantine and they just keep hanging around. So if you see a little ear or something, apologies. So the question content I've put on the side of slide 7 are things that you need to be thinking about to answer the question, but they're not the order in which you have to put them. They're just things that you need to consider to be able to answer the question properly. If anything, I'd want you to be able to tell me what all of them are or answer all 5 bullet points in your head before you started writing the answer to the question, because then you know and I know that you understand what you're being asked. So the first question is the first thing on the content, sorry. What do Liberal governments believe and how does this influence policy? Basically, what I'm asking you is to tell me, in your head, you don't have to write anything down at this point, but what is a Liberal government? One of the key things in the question is Liberal governments. So you need to tell me Liberal governments are different to what's been done before. That links to point 2. But Liberal governments basically believe that it is the job of the government and of the ruling classes and those upper in society who have more power than those lower to help everyone in society so that then society can grow together. So a Liberal government, you might link closely to our Labour side in the modern day. Okay, this is where Labour came from. Labour grew from the Liberal Party. So liberal governments basically means you have a liberal view, which is the rich, on those who can, should be helping the lower in society, as well as the lower in society, once they've been helped, can then give back to society, and the cycle grows and grows. The idea of a liberal government is that if you help everyone in society, society grows together. Contrastly, a conservative society believes that everyone should help themselves, and in doing that, you can all grow together but separately. Okay, so you can hold either side of these opinions. It's not black or white. Some people hold some more conservative views, some people hold some more liberal views, and some cross over the middle. But basically, a liberal government believes that it is their job to help the poor in society. Therefore, their policy, the decisions they're going to make, are going to be based on helping the poorest, helping the sickest, helping those who are unemployed, helping those who can't help themselves. Okay? When we're talking about welfare and we're talking about patient care, the people who are most likely who are going to need help, be that medically or monetarily, like with money and economy and stuff, are going to be the poorest. You're going to be in worse housing, you're going to have worse jobs, you're going to have worse food, etc. So that's what you need to know about a liberal government. How were people looked after before the 20th century? Well, I've just told you that the Liberals were quite new. Before then, it was you look after yourself. If you get sick, that's your issue, you deal with it. If you can't afford a doctor, get someone else to help you. Use a natural remedy, sort yourself out at home. If you lose your job, get your children to work. That was what a more conservative government would have believed, because they didn't believe it was the government's job to give handouts to people, which is essentially, in their eyes, a waste of time, because the rich are still rich and they can build. And if you're a worker, you're working class, you can be replaced. So in the eyes of a more conservative government and policy, is that you don't need to help the people, because there will always be someone willing to do a job, or those who need help should be able to help themselves. That's the theory, okay? So you know that before, people weren't really looked after by the government. Under the Liberal government, they believed that they should be helping people and that people should be given opportunities to improve their quality of life and therefore improve their health. Yeah, remember, this is all linked. You don't just get sick. You are more likely to be sick for a number of reasons. So keep that in mind when you're just thinking about this question. I've put the other 3 bullet points, national insurance, 1911, national insurance, 1913, and welfare after World War I, as things that you should be referencing in your answer. There's no rules about which ones you include. I'll probably just talk about 2 of them because I only need 2 pure paragraphs. But there's a multitude of ways to do this. There's no right way. And even my sentence starters are one way, but genuinely, if this was me doing the exam, I might not have followed that structure. I might have done something different. But I think at least this structure gives you the PEEL way, which you have to include, just that it might look a little bit different if you don't follow this structure. As long as you are linking back to the question, honestly, a lot of you are losing marks there. As long as you're linking back to the question, that's all really all I really ask of you. Because you can give me all the facts and figures in the world, but if you're not answering the question that I've asked, it's useless to me. So my point is my first sentence, so the point part of my paragraph, is one thing the Liberal government developed in patient care was, and then just tell me what they did, was introduce the National Insurance Act of 1911. Full stop. In a way, think about it, you've got 1 mark because you've told me something. This was, then you've got to give me more detail. This was a scheme where both workers and employers would put money in so that if the worker got sick, they would be supported by their employer and by the government. Yeah, all that information is in slide 5. Yeah, I've explained it to you. Have a read of it. Yeah, I've put it there for you. This resulted in, now you've got to think bigger. I know what it is and I know what they did. So then what does that mean? So this resulted in more people being looked after by the state if they got unwell, which therefore, think about it, therefore increased people's income, probably because they weren't losing their jobs when they got unwell, and quality of life, because if they've got money, they can therefore live better lives. Remember that, it's all linked together. Then this development was, you make a decision, you make a judgment. This development was quite important, or very important, for the development of patient care by the state, because the government was trying to improve the lives of those who needed it most, and therefore by introducing the National Insurance Act, was supporting the most vulnerable in society and improving medical availability for patients in society. Yeah, because we're all technically patients, whether we've used whether we use the medical service or not, we are potential patients. So what they're doing is opening that up for people. I've given you 1 paragraph. You can kind of adapt that how you like. I don't want to spend ages explaining this to you because my second paragraph would be the same. But what I would say is, in your second paragraph, talk about the building scheme of after World War I of the 1920s. If 200,000 houses are built, what is that going to mean for people's housing, obviously, therefore health, therefore jobs? Yeah, Liberal government developed a scheme to create houses instead of slums. Tell me what that is, basically. 200,000 houses were built. This resulted in people having better living conditions. therefore less likely to get sick. So therefore, this development was somewhat important because people had better living conditions thanks to the Liberal government, and therefore they were less likely to get unwell, or if they were unwell, they were supported by, linked to paragraph 1, the National Insurance Act, which would give them money or a wage whilst they're unwell. Yeah? Hopefully that makes sense. I didn't want it to go over 10 minutes and it's 10 and a half. So I'll stop there, but hopefully that's a little bit clearer. And I'll do the same for a 6 marker because a lot of you are losing marks there as well. So that's all I've got to say. Hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer. I'm just hoping I haven't waffled and you just not understood. But fingers crossed that that's given you a bit more guidance. Look after yourselves. Hope you and your family are well. And I'll see you when I next do an explanation.